If you have young children enrolled in childcare or that will be enrolling in childcare, this video is applicable to you, guaranteed. Today we are talking about one of the most challenging, most frustrating issues for both parents and childcare providers: illnesses. In this video, I'm sharing the reality of this situation in preschool and childcare and the challenges it presents. And stay tuned until the end because I will be sharing some insight and tips to help effectively maneuver your way through the inevitable illness situation. I feel like this is something that isn't talked about in childcare enough. Let's be real. Preschool and childcare centers breed germs. Yes, the teachers can clean a lot. Yes, the center can have all the illness policies in the world. Yes, the center can have air purifiers, but there's only so much it can do. Think about it. When you put dozens or even hundreds of children in one building who are constantly putting things in their mouth, drooling, picking their nose, not properly washing their hands, coughing and sneezing without covering their mouths, etc., all of which is developmentally appropriate, by the way, but there's naturally going to be a lot of illness. It's not uncommon for new children to be enrolled, say, the first 8 weeks and to be sick for 4 to 6 of them. Of course, it will vary for each individual child, but for the purposes of this video, I'm speaking broadly and generally. You name it, they'll get it. Colds, cough, croup, pink eye, hand, foot, and mouth, fifth disease, rashes, diarrhea, vomiting, stomach bugs, COVID, flu, the list goes on. Realistically, your child is going to get sick a lot, especially when they first enroll in a program about the first 6 months or so, and each fall and winter during the cold flu season. It's just the nature of the beast. It's the nature of childcare. Most childcare illness policies do run on the strict side. We try our best to protect not only the other children, but also the teachers from getting sick. We're in a center that breeds germs. We have children sneezing in our face, coughing in our face, wiping their boogers on us. We constantly come into contact with bodily fluids, blood, changing their diapers, urine, feces, vomit, spit up. Policies are also strict in attempts to mitigate illness from spreading to even more children, which affects even more families. Here's why the situation is so frustrating if you're not already aware. From a parent's perspective, the child is in a childcare program or a preschool, of course, to learn, to grow, to develop, to have structure, to socialize, all those benefits, but also for childcare purposes because you as the parent need to work. But if your child is constantly getting sick and has to stay out of childcare, it defeats the purpose. And do you as a parent get a refund on tuition? Most likely the answer is no. I've never heard of or worked at a center that refunds parents when their children are out sick, but maybe there's a few out there. Now, in an ideal world, would we, the childcare providers, childcare directors, childcare owners, like to refund you the tuition? Absolutely. It would probably solve about 85% of the problems that we encounter with parents, to be honest. Now, it's simply not plausible. Childcare profit margins are already extremely small. The costs of operating a childcare program are extremely high. And quite honestly, if programs refunded parents tuition for the amount of time their children were out of the center, every single childcare would go out of business. But I know what you're thinking. Now I'm double paying for childcare. I'm paying tuition for my child to attend. The childcare program is requiring me to keep my child home because they're sick. And now I have to hire a sitter or a nanny to watch my child and pay for that too. Not fair, right? The answer is it really isn't fair. And there's really not a fair solution for it. It's also not fair that early childhood is severely underfunded and that early childhood teachers get paid such a low salary, below the living wage, and that they're frequently exposed to illnesses as well as their own households and children. Let's face it, the entire system is broken, but at least knowing what to expect, there are less surprises and you can plan ahead knowing this information. That's why I created my YouTube channel, the Daycare Guide, so you can have this information in advance, be aware, make a plan, and consider this information when making a childcare decision. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. A huge theme of my channel is managing expectations. It's much easier to be able to accept a situation, even though it's difficult or challenging, when you know what to expect, right? So as an early childhood director with over 20 years experience in the field, I'm offering my best advice. It's not a perfect solution. I know that. I'm telling you up front right now. The bad news is there really isn't a clear, straightforward solution to this problem, but the good news is you're watching this video so you know what to expect in advance and can better prepare for the challenges ahead and make a decision that works for your family in your own circumstances. The first tip is review the center's illness policy so there are no surprises. You should review and be familiar with the center's illness policy so you can know what to expect and decide what will work for your family. Illness policies across centers don't vary drastically. There are some differences, but there's somewhat of an industry standard. There's a lot of template sharing, templates provided by state departments of early childhood and such. So if you're one of those people that doesn't read anything, this is one that you're going to want to make sure to read. I can't tell you how many parents have come to me angry and upset over the years complaining about our illness policy and it's too strict and they have to work after they've already enrolled their child simply because they didn't read it and they didn't know what to expect. They'll say things like, oh, I thought they could come back. They feel better today. Why can't they come back?
If they read the policy in advance, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Sometimes parents are surprised by the strictness of center's policy. Again, they're strict in order to mitigate illness. What we commonly see is situations that you as the parent might deem acceptable to send your child back to school are not permitted by the center's policy. For example, you may think that if your child has a 101 fever and no other symptoms, they get sent home in the afternoon, you can give them Tylenol and bring them back to school the next day. But most centers require them to be out for 24 hours fever-free without the use of medication, meaning they cannot attend the next day. Translation, you may have thought you're just missing a half day of work, but now you're missing an additional day of work. The second tip is to create a solid backup care plan in advance.
More than likely when they first enroll in a program, they get sick a lot and you're going to be taking a lot of time off from work. So unless your job is really flexible, or unless you have the flexibility to be able to work from home, or maybe you work remotely and you can work on and off throughout the day while caring for your child, you definitely will need to arrange for backup care.
A few questions to consider. How many days off from work are you able to take? How many days does your spouse have available to take off from work? Do you have to reconsider family vacations because of the amount of time you're taking off? Do you have family or friends around? Do you need to hire a backup babysitter? Also consider that babysitters may be willing to watch your children for mild fevers, colds, pink eye, and the like, but will not be willing to watch them for more severe illness such as flu or COVID. So that will be time that you'll have to take off.
Arrange for the backup care, make other plans, because if you don't, it's going to leave you in an extremely frustrated position.
Tip number 3 is consider less restrictive alternative childcare options.
Maybe a nanny option is better for your family because you can't take off that much time from work and you can't double pay for childcare. That's also something to consider when making the decision to enroll your child in a program or not.
Now I want to be clear, I am not advocating for a nanny or family member over a center. This is my recommendation for families who are in very limited situations. For example, if you're a single parent, you cannot take off that much time from work and you have a strict job and you don't have any family or friends in the area who can help with childcare, or maybe you're not comfortable leaving your child with a babysitter or a neighbor, then enrolling your child in a center will inevitably put your back against the wall, so you may want to consider other childcare options. While of course your child will still get sick sometimes, but they will be exposed to less germs during their first couple of years. Note, when they do eventually start in preschool or kindergarten, then that wave of illness is still going to happen because their immune system didn't have a chance to build up immunity against all of those different diseases. In a sense, you're just prolonging it, but it may be a little less frequent and you will likely get away with less time off from work with a nanny. You also won't have the same illness policy having a nanny rather than a center that has to be more careful because of the number of families served and staff employed. Be sure to check out my video of comparing the pros and cons of enrolling your child in a childcare center versus having a nanny versus home daycare programs, which I will link to the end of this video. So to recap, the 3 things to consider are: review the center's illness policy so you can know what to expect, make a solid backup care plan based on your family's circumstances, and consider alternative care options and weigh the pros and cons of the different options.
Sorry I don't have all the perfect answers, but I hope this video was helpful at least to be able to manage your expectations and give you a sense for what illnesses are like in the world of childcare.
If this content was helpful for you in considering your options, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you join me.
I wish you and your family the best of health and good luck.